Hey everyone, welcome back to another devlog for the Song of the Fae. I'm Ben, and I'll be taking you through all the work we've been doing on the game recently. Normally I talk more at the start, but I think I'm just gonna get into it. Hey, there we go. So, first things first, several large changes. One, this artwork is new, it's done by our good friend of the team, Jake, and there's more coming, basically. This isn't even finished yet, I probably shouldn't even be using it, but I was excited to put something very nice on screen, so I did. You can also see the name of the game has actually changed. So let's make this like properly announced in devlog format. It was in my last playtesting video. We're gonna call the game WizardChess. The Song of the Fae is the subtitle. That might not even appear everywhere from now on. Like, I'm gonna try and call the game WizardChess. I will undoubtedly slip up many times because I'm used to the old name. But we talked about this for a long time. I think it's the right name, and we've been thinking about this name for years and whether we should move to it. So, yeah, let's just get that out of the way. It's called WizardChess. Forgive me for saying the wrong thing inevitably during this presentation. So what are we going to go through today? There's heaps in this new build, and I encourage you to check out the last playtesting video, which I'll link to and some of the cards on screen here in the description. You can also obviously just play the game and look at the changelog on Steam for more information, but we're going to go over these 7 high-level points. So, yeah, I won't dwell on these for too long, but preparation room, refined board view and new run structure are kind of one and the same thing. You'll see what I mean. New opponent, that also ties in with tutorialization and user experience generally. Oh, excuse me, burped. The camera controls, well, look, but the rest of these are actually pretty minor down here, so we will just get to those. Let's start off with the preparation room. So, this is the preparation room. This will just play on loop while I'm talking to you guys. The idea of this is that when you start off your run, you might not yet know how the units you're using work. You might not have played like in a little while. You just want to warm up. You want to test out your party composition if you've been re-rolling your army. As you can see, we've moved that into this room where the re-roll button at the bottom lets you change your lineup. This room then gives you an ability to just use the units on enemies that can't hurt you. And this is pretty useful for, like, we built this originally to teach people the game in a way that was controlled so they could just click around in here while I explained the rules. But ultimately, it's really nice to test if a party works or not, especially if you have a new unit in it you haven't used before. So, stay tuned for more changes to the reroll system. This is sort of like a placeholder way of doing rerolls at the moment where you just get to reroll as many times as you like and it's totally random. That's not a great experience, and we have some ideas about how to make this a lot better, but for now, this is a way for you to try out all the different units in the game. I'll come back to this in a little bit because there is the ability to unlock new units now for the first time, so this has some caveats around it. But yeah, long story short, your run will start with the preparation room. You can just skip it by clicking this button. There's no penalty for doing anything in this room, it's just to get to grips with units and how to play the game. Next is points 2 and 3, the new board and the new run structure. So this video is just going to play in the background here, but as you can see, things look a little different visually to how they used to. Fundamentally, the concept of the board hasn't changed that much in that there are icons on grid squares and you need to go through them to get to the other side. But the way we present those icons, as you saw, is quite different. I'm just showing here how like clicking on one of those buildings on that other map takes you into an encounter. So gone is the selecting a set of tiles and that determines your encounter. Now we've sort of predetermined the encounters as chunks that you click on. And look, I probably don't even need to explain to you why this is probably a better design because you can almost just look at it and be like, yeah, that's easier to play. But I've been really enjoying this change. I think this is probably the most impactful change we've made to the game, is that you just kind of click on the board to go to the next thing, and there's a little bit of strategization. You'll see when I leave this room. There's a little bit of strategization about where to go next, because when you finish a room, the block that room was contained within is removed from the map, and you can now access the rooms that it was blocking. So you have this, like, you still discover a path through the board, but it's not totally choose your own adventure, and it's not one of these, like, Slay the Spire style, node graph style maps where you just click branching lines. I wanted to do something, we wanted to do something a little bit more dynamic than that, I guess is maybe the way to put it, or maybe embodied is a better way, where like it just feels like this is part of a whole world. Nice, you get your rewards, come back to here basically. And yeah, you can pick another room, the cycle repeats. And obviously, we want to get to the other. It's not looping. I thought I said it to loop. You want to get to the boss on the other side of this board. That's the structure of the run. That hasn't really changed, except this is the point 3 up here, new run structure. Some of you also probably already anticipated this, but we decided to get rid of the board flipping, like the second half of the run thing. I just kept playing the game and kept being like, it's pretty cognitively taxing to play this game for like 15 or 20 minutes. I don't think we want this game to be a 40-minute run sort of thing. And we've basically made the decision that, yeah, a run should probably take about 15 to 20 minutes, and that's the goal now. So that took some getting used to. It felt surprisingly short to me at first, but I actually think it's way better, and all the playtesting we've been doing has indicated that it's way better. So I hope that everyone enjoys it. Please do let us know if you think that we've lost something in the mix, but all the complexity that was in the game is still there. It's just been redistributed into different biomes, different opponents, different content. So what have we got? Yeah, opponents. This brings me nicely into the next section. So this is a slightly revamped title screen where you've got, these are the 4 possible opponents you can play against right now. We hacked some things together here where the snake used to be in the swamp, it's now in the desert. Arabella used to be in the forest, and she is now in the swamp. The forest is also gone, because we kind of rolled the forest and the swamp into one. This is just the behind-the-scenes thing. Like, we were just, we don't need that much content. It'd be better if we made all the biomes really, really good and unique instead of just having an extra one. So we decided to go in favor of less biomes that are better. So at least at the moment. I have reserved the right to change my mind about everything all the time. So yeah, you can see... I went into something I wanted to talk more about here, which is this tutorial boss is one of the new opponents. Come back. I want to show the tutorial boss. There. Yeah, let's just pause for a sec on the tutorial boss. So, this boss will not be called the tutorial boss in the final game, but, I mean, that's what it is right now. We want to do the sort of thing where you disguise the tutorial as just being the first act of the game so that you don't feel like you're being condescended to by the game. So, when you first play, you will only have this opponent unlocked, and you have to beat them to unlock Cormag, you have to beat Cormag to unlock the snake, you have to beat the snake to unlock Arabella. That's how it's going to work at the moment. So, if you... I clicked to the next slide, I'm sorry. Yeah. If we play this again. If we go into the tutorial boss now, it takes you into a whole biome/map setup specifically for the tutorial. So, I'm waiting for my point in the video to go into it. There we go. You're on rails through this, like as in this is very obviously not the same as the map we just saw, but it's a orchestrated set of rooms that it forces you to come to terms with the basic mechanics of the game. So it's not a tutorial in the sense that, like, there's no cutscene here, there's no text on screen even really. I might put a little bit to explain like how to select units, but this room, the point of it is that you can't get out of this room without understanding the core mechanic of the game, which is you need to attack an enemy with 2 units at once to kill it. I say that, but here, watch me subvert exactly what I just said by killing it with 1 unit. I know I need to fix this. Just don't comment on that now. But that's how this whole area works, is that each room is designed to teach you one new thing about the core gameplay. You can't leave the room unless you understand that thing. And that's kind of the point of the tutorial biome, is just you need to beat the boss in that very controlled way. You should be able to do it if you've played the game before, but I outlined this in the changelog notes. You can unlock everything and just skip over this if you're an existing player, and I'll talk more about that later in the video too. Let's go to the next one, camera controls. So, I had to include this because it did very well on Twitter recently. This video in here went semi-viral, at least for me, and it stoked a bunch of interest in the game, which is always awesome to see. I think it does look pretty cool. Ultimately, this is an accessibility feature that came out of... I was at a local meetup and I was complaining about how it's so hard to design keyboard and controller control schemes for an isometric game. And someone was like, what if it wasn't isometric? As in, like, not change the whole game, but like, what if the view you were controlling from wasn't isometric? And I was like, oh yeah, the game's 3D. I could do that. I could just move the camera. So I did. I hacked it in there in like 15 minutes and then polished it up later. And I think it's awesome, honestly. Like, I like the isometric view and I still play with that as the default. I will continue to do so and it will ship as the default of the game. But when you plug a controller in, I think we might even change the perspective for you, because ultimately moving things around with a D-pad on an isometric grid doesn't work that well. There are ways you can do it, but it's way better to just have an orthogonal grid. So this is mostly visual flair to some extent, but I do find myself toggling between the perspectives based on what kind of room I'm in. Sometimes you want a little tactics overview mode. And I think that as well, like, if we were to bring the game to consoles, for example, in the future, something like this would be really useful. So yeah, that's just mostly an accessibility feature, but it looks cool, so it gets included in the devlog, and it went well on Twitter. So you gotta get your bang out of those Twitter videos when you post one that works. Okay, save data and options. There's a reason there's no video for this, because I couldn't think of anything meaningful to record. Long story short, the game has never saved any information up to this point. Now, it should save the options that you set and load them on next launch. I know there'll be bugs in that, because there always are with options, but yeah, please report them in Discord and I will do my best to resolve them. And there's also save game progress. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier. There's nothing on screen to distract you now, so you have to listen to me. The content is unlocked by playing the game now. We're still working on how it will be unlocked precisely. If you get sick of that process, there are instructions in the new changelog on how to enable developer mode, which will unlock all the content for you. If you don't want to read the changelog, press the / key when you're playing the game, and you'll see a little message come up in the bottom left corner in pink saying developer mode activated. That should unlock all the content. That obviously won't be there when the game ships in version 1, but for the time being, while this unlock progression is still being developed, I think it's best not to lock everyone out of all the content. Plus, we need developer mode, so, it makes sense too. So yeah, this is nice because it lets us start building out the actual unlock progression of the game and slowly exposing players to more and more information as they play. There will be a lot more stuff that leverages this system coming in whatever the next patch is after this. Let's not talk too much about the next patch just yet. The last thing I wanted to talk about is like a big change here. Oh, my description is cut off at the top right. Oh well. Is the shop. So this is the new shop UI. There's buttons over the top. Oh, this broken UI moment in the video there where it overlaps. Sad. I hate seeing stuff like that. Each of these buttons will let you buy the item that it's overhead of. It's actually really simple. You used to have to move the bar up to things so you could buy them, and that just kind of was getting incredibly annoying while playing, especially in playtesting. Everybody was like, why is this room like this? So I basically was like, you're right, it shouldn't be like this. You should just be able to buy them. Importantly, you can compare the price for everything without having to go and stand next to it now, which is another big improvement. So this one, mostly just a quality of life change, but a big quality of life improvement if you ask me. So that's all the high level stuff that I wanted to cover in this. I'm turboing through this video a little bit, but I do want to make these a bit quicker than I've been making them because quite frankly, I don't know if anyone wants to hear me talk about the game for 45 minutes with no real plan to just ramble. So I mean, if you do, let me know in the comments and I can just make more videos of that too. Playtesting videos are a little more open-ended in that way, but I'm trying to get these to be streamlined little updates. So, on that note, there are more places to learn more information. The last playtesting VOD contains all this stuff. The patch notes will be on Steam, and the changelog is also mirrored in-game. You can see here this note about using developer mode. So if you get to the game and you're like, how do I do developer mode again? It says it in the changelog. Does this play if I click on it? Oh, yes, but there was a little glitchy bit. This is such a jank video. I probably shouldn't have even included it. There you go. Yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff in there. This still is an abbreviation over the raw number of Git commits. There's hundreds and hundreds of commits since the last build, because it's been a while. I didn't really speak to that. I'll speak to it now, shall I? While I talk about where we're going. So, now is where we are. We came from somewhere in the past. So how did we get here? We decided we were gonna break from our existing cadence of putting out a patch roughly monthly, because putting out a patch on a game that is kind of duct taped together at a regular cadence doesn't matter, because the game's still not super playable and super sticky or interesting. So we decided we should pivot things around and say, let's refine the game, get it focused down to something that's really enjoyable to play, that we really like, and it feels sort of complete and more cohesive. And that's meant mostly cutting and like stitching things back together, and like I said, rearranging where content is, tuning the time and effort of different elements of the game. We've basically just been like, okay, so what does this game want to be, and tried to be really objective is maybe not the best word, because how can you be objective about fun, but as open-minded as possible as to what the game needs to evolve into the right form. And I think we've gotten a huge amount closer, to the point where I think we've got the overall game structure pretty much right now. Bold claim, but I think that it's working well. So yeah, all these changes really were around, we want you to be able to come in as a new player, not be drowned in complexity, have a tutorial experience that onboards you into the game, have a progression to explore all the content, and it's unveiled to you one step at a time. And we've got most of that in place. We do have the ability to do an end-to-end run that sort of feels complete now. You start off with 4 units, you go into combat encounters, you gain some, you lose some, you get rewards, you go to the shop, etc. And if you do well enough, you make it to the boss and you challenge them. And if you have enough units and you play well, you can beat them. So the run is still, it's all about the same things. Like, we didn't change the game in terms of the idea of it, but we just got really realistic about where the fun is in this game and tried to really narrow in on that. So yeah, shout out to everyone at Squiggly River, the meetup that I go to here in Brisbane, for all the feedback we've gotten on these builds. In-person playtesting is super valuable, and I recommend that everyone does it. Obviously, feedback from everyone on Discord is always appreciated, but watching someone play is just like, you get so much information so quickly. So that's how we got to this now node. Where are we going? So I'm not going to show you the behind-the-scenes stuff, but we have so many units and enemies to implement. We've already designed lots of ideas. We're just kind of putting them in one at a time. There are lots of new units in the new build. I didn't even cover them in the devlog because there's so much other higher level stuff to talk about. So yeah, go play the game. That's my plug. But yeah, this is here working through our backlog of stuff we know we want to implement. That's what this branch represents. This represents, we need to come up with the right cocktail of enemies and the right spawn weightings and the right way of using them in the different biomes for the most fun. Balancing variety with predictability, etc., is a huge part of that. Bosses, the snake boss and the fake queen / Arabella are both completely jank at the moment. I'm sorry that we can't ship totally complete versions of those, but that's just what it is. They're not done. We've been working a little bit on like the overall way bosses function, so we've been holding back on diving into those. That'll happen soonish, I think, that we'll start to really dig in and get the bosses in place. Challenge rooms have been in a similar place where there's mazes, if you know them by that name, because it is what they look like. They have not been working great. They're alright, but they just feel like a little bit of a like draw the rest of the owl moment in the game, where you haven't really got a reason to go there. And so they're actually not in the Cormac's biome anymore. They're only in the desert and the swamp, and we're working on sort of rejigging them and making them much more interesting. This central thread here is like new player experience, which is why it's in the middle, because that's what I've been thinking about a lot for the past couple of months. So we've just come out of doing the tutorial, really, and that's going to feed directly into this next node called the codex. So like, we ummed and ahed about this because putting a big book in your game that people can read about stuff in is usually annoying. But this game has a lot of stuff in it. And if you can't look it up somewhere, then it's going to fall out to like some wiki that somebody has to maintain. And like, honestly, it's just easier if you can click on something in-game and get the answers. So the vision for the codex is that you'll be able to, and you can do much of this right now actually on some units, you can right-click on any unit to inspect them and get a description of how they work and how their skill works and their unique traits, etc. I want to push that even further to, you can right-click on encounters on the board, you can right-click on objects and it will explain what they are, and basically populating your codex of the rules of WizardChess is a bit like populating your Pokedex in Pokemon. Like, discovering all the rules by playing will fill out your codex, and then that's kind of a mark of completion of the game if you fill out the whole codex. It's not the only mark, but it's a mark. So yeah, we're going to build out the user interface side. We've done heaps of design, but it's time to sort of thread that through. And the way this will work, likely in your experience, is like I said, right-clicking on units, but also when you uncover a new mechanic or a new room or a new whatever that you haven't seen before, the codex entry for it will pop up in the top right corner. You can ignore it, but then later on you'll be able to go to the codex and see which the new things are since the last time you opened it and read about them if you want to. So it's not going to be a lore dump. Like, there's not going to be any, like, in the year 1000, the game WizardChess was invented. It's more like, how do the mechanics work, and what would you write? Importantly, every entry in the codex is about a tweet long, so that it's meant to be easily referenceable, quickly consumable stuff. So that's kind of implicit in this UX Plus tutorial thing, that weaving the codex through the tutorial that we've built will be a big is a crappy word to use there, will be a significant factor in how understandable the tutorial is. We want it to be fairly, like, we want the player to just go through it and learn by doing, but this is here if you want to look up what it is that you have learned by doing afterwards. You can see faded out here, there's some more information that we're thinking about. Event log, I know the existing event log sucks, I'm sorry. We have thought a decent amount about it, but I still don't know if we're all the way there to something I'm ready to implement. This is going to happen pretty close to the point where the game is entering like beta, I think. We'll nail the event log then, because we need to know what the game is before we know what the event log should be like for it, and we're almost there, but not quite. Short introduction, sort of the same, like, there is a story background to everything in this game. We don't want to drown people in lore, but we want to have a little, like, 15-30 second introductory sequence that you come through, so you don't just land on the title screen immediately. That won't happen until we're pretty much finished with the gameplay, though. Like, I'm not compromising gameplay focus for cutscene focus, at least not for now. It's got nothing to do with the fact that I'm just bad at making cutscenes and find them boring. Nothing at all to do with that. Anyway, moving on. So, I'm kidding. This is a pretty good map of where my thoughts are right now. I can't promise that this is what the next patch will necessarily contain, because I can never promise anything. We change our minds about the game a lot, but this is the area, well, these are the areas I think are most deserving of our attention. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for tuning into this one. I know it has been a little different to how I do the devlogs, but I'm sort of refining the style, I hope. I don't know, maybe this one's way worse. Let me know in the comments. But yeah, subscribe to the channel if you want to keep up to date with more videos, more change log updates. You can buy the game on Steam or itch. There are links to those in the description. And you can also just wishlist it if you want to hang out for version 1. Please join the Discord if you like. There's not a lot of like active discussion there, but it's where we get our bug reports. And if there was active discussion, I would participate in it. I just, I've got get a lot of messages, get a lot of emails, I have a lot of game to make. So, yeah, the Discord could use some more people hanging out in it. You can also, I should change this. Oh no, I got to block this out. You can follow me on Twitter at VivaVolt and the studio at 2PM Studios. This is wrong. It's at WizardChess with an underscore on the end. I'm sorry, I'll have to update it for the next time. You'll have to just look in the description for the actual link. I haven't been streaming on Twitch recently because you stream at Australian times, no one watches you, and it's just like super stressful. I kind of like doing YouTube videos more. If you really miss the streams, let me know, and we'll see what we can do about bringing them back, but I'm kind of feeling like YouTube might be the better way to go. And finally, the mailing list. This doesn't get posted on very often, but this is where we will post major announcements about the game. So yeah, if you want some additional reading material, feel free to subscribe to that. I've included this little panel here, which is another piece of art with the new name and style of the game. This is actually on Steam now as the main piece of promo art, I guess is what you'd call it. They call it the capsule on Steam. I don't know. Sorry, I keep burping. It's disgusting. Oh well. It's the capsule art for Steam. I don't know what capsule refers to. I think it's a store term because it's like in a little box at the top of the page. It's encapsulated. I don't know. Anyway. Thank you for tuning into this one while I burp and ramble my way out of it. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.